Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. It's time for yet another edition of This Week in Master Duel, wherein of course we cover all of the latest happenings within Master Duel over the course of last week. This case it'll kind of be the last 2 weeks because usually I don't do one of these on pack release day. I like to wait a little bit for us to get some tournament results in after the new selection packs have dropped, which we will be looking at today. We'll of course start by covering the latest notifications and events here within the client itself, and then we'll move on to Master Duel meta, where again we're gonna look at we're not only gonna look at tournament results, but I also want to look at the breakdown for Super Heavy Samurai and talk a little bit about how that deck has developed since its release. And indeed, if we go here to notifications, the latest thing since the last time we covered one of these was pretty much, where is it? Here we go. The new secret pack is not what I meant to click on, but also, of course, the new selection pack, Indomitable Pride, came out a little over a week ago at this point, about a week and a half ago, and has definitely shaped up the meta quite a bit, particularly in ranked ladder. This is something I'm going to talk about here in a little bit when we look at some tournament results, but especially on ranked ladder, we of course been seeing a lot of Super Heavy Samurais, with mostly the Wakashi, I guess more so than the Brave Musaruro, but this is of course a very, very good card in and of itself. The new Visus cards, the Visus Amritera, as well as the Manadium Trisukta, although only 2 support cards from the Manadium deck, have greatly increased the deck's power level. And of course, the introduction of Gold Pride not only shows us a cool new archetype, but also one that plays very well with the pre-existing Punk engine. Nimlaria also released, and honestly, a lot better than a lot of people, myself included, gave credit for. The deck isn't like sweeping as much as Super Heavy Samurai, but seeing quite a few people hitting Master with this deck. So I've always said it, and I'll continue to say it, even a deck that looks more casual like Nimlaria, still far more than capable of reaching the top rank there. So in addition to that, we also got a new version update that's going to come with a mandatory update here at the end of the month. It's beginning to look like this is going to be our next anniversary sort of celebration here. Last year, you might remember we had the packs with the guaranteed royals in it. We had like a bunch of gems for logging in, a whole bunch of cool stuff, a bunch of quality of life updates. So yeah, it's cool to see that happening again. Also, I want to highlight this in particular because this is something that I've actually kind of been on Master Duel about. Animation mates. They're actually, or mate animations rather, they're adding some. They're adding some for some of the mates that were like included in dual passes. I believe Quibble, Karibo, and Skeepgoat were all dual pass mates if I recall correctly, but one of the complaints I've had about mates, which of course they're just mates, it's not like the most, pressing thing in the world, but to me, it's always been weird that Konami is stingy with mate animations, and what I mean by that is, if you notice, any mate you can get for free from an event or from a dual pass only ever has one animation that it ever does ever. But if you buy one with gems, those mates all have animations for like, multiple different animations if you click on them, for when you enter a duel, for when you win a duel, for when you lose a duel. And it's just always been so weird. Like, Konami, like, I don't think it's weird that Konami's being stingy. Like, that's very much expected from them. But about mate animations of all things, but they're actually adding some. That's cool. It's really, really cool. Also, this is confusing to me. Change card list displayed with the effect of ogre so that cards displayed in the order of which they are excavated. I thought it already did that, but I guess not. Okay. And these are not, of course, going to be all of the changes that are coming with the new version update. This is just a sampling, I imagine, of what is to come. We got some new accessories in with this latest update as well. We got some Gold Pride accessories, the sleeve and the deck box. I think the deck box looks a lot better than the sleeve, frankly. The sleeve, actually, I still really like, but there's something about the deck box. What I like about the deck box in particular, and I can actually show this if I go over to my decks here, and this is like the most minute, does not matter at all thing in the world, but hang on, it doesn't really show it well here because the cards are in the way. What if I go over to Duel? Well, what I like about it is that when the deck box opens, you can actually see, yeah, okay, so see when it's closed, right? It's got like the pink fish bones on it. And you can kind of see the green fish bones poking underneath. But when you hover over it and it opens, you actually see the logos that are underneath the lid of the deck box. That's like, that so doesn't matter, but I think that's really cool. I think that was, in fact, a very nice touch. So I like both these accessories. I like the deck box a lot better than the sleeve. There's also more wallpapers if you want them. I think the wallpaper looks really cool, but I only really buy the FOMO wallpapers. Usually, otherwise, I don't really buy wallpapers, so. Theme Chronicle event is underway. Rewards are a couple of icons. The Night Chaser icon looks pretty cool. I'll probably grind up to 16,000 medals just to grab myself that one there. The Theme Chronicle, of course, being the event that is kind of solo mode only decks, except I noticed that this time around they greatly, it seems to me anyway, that they've greatly expanded the card pool, right, of what's allowable. It kind of seems more like rogue decks, the event, which I think is cool. I think this is a decent step in the right direction of where I'd like events to be. I made a whole video about this before. I'm not going to lie to you, I think Master Duel events by and large just kind of suck. They mostly feel like chores. I'm not going to lie, this one also feels like a chore. The only ones that have really felt interesting and where I wanted to play more games beyond just getting like the gems or icons or rewards in general would be NR and Limit 1. I feel like both of those events really challenge you to deck build in very interesting ways. I don't think Theme Chronicle really does that. It's kind of just like pick a rogue deck and just kind of make a good build of it, which is like, at the same time, it is cool to have basically rogue decks the event, but on the other hand, I really want another event like NR or Limit 1. Unfortunately, it also makes sense why Konami doesn't do events like NR and Limit 1 anymore, because they don't really offer you any incentive to buy into any of the packs or packs in general to participate in the event. So it's like, but it is what it is. But I mean, I think this event is fine. Compared to a lot of other events we've had, I'll tell you what, this is way better than the, what is the other one? The Legend Anthology event. The one with no hand traps. I see people complaining about there being hand traps in this event, and I'm just like, this is a good thing. You want there to be hand traps, because if there's not, we have a repeat of Legend Anthology where, you know, everyone was like, oh, no hand traps in anime decks, it'll be so much fun. But the reality was, oh, you play against mostly DD and Marincis, and if they go first, you just lose unless you open your one of Imperm or Veilers because you don't have hand traps. It's the reality of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Without hand traps. It literally becomes Coin Flip Simulator. It just, like, as much as people complain that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is currently Coin Flip Simulator, it's really not. That's largely because of hand traps and board breakers. If you ban them all, then the game is actually just Coin Flip Simulator. So, not a fan of it. But, I mean, Theme Chronicle here is, like, fine. It's whatever. Okay, I think that pretty much covers everything. Oh, and as far as what I'm playing for Theme Chronicle, I think I might actually make a video about it. I've been on Gold Pride. It's been very, very good. We streamed Gold Pride event games last night, and I went 13-4 on stream, so that's pretty rad. If you're interested in checking out that VOD, you can go over to my Twitch channel or subscribe to my other YouTube channel, where it will be uploaded within about like a week and a half, couple of weeks after the live air date, so... Okay, let's pop over to Master Duel meta here. Oh, and I'll need to swap over my screen capture as well. There we are. Yeah, so before we actually get into tournament results, I want to talk a little bit about Super Heavy Samurai. I would look at the deck breakdown to see how this deck has shaken out. Now, it's been, again, almost a couple of weeks since its release, and what some of the Master Duel builds tend to look like. So, I'm a big fan of using Master Duel Meta's deck breakdowns when not only building decks, but also analyzing them and seeing what is working and what's not in the current meta, or at the very least, what's most popular among builds in the current meta. So, with Super Heavy Samurai in particular, there are a ton of different ways to build it. You can do a standard turn 1 board setup. You can have that include Scythelock if you want to. You can include an extra draw 2 off the Infinite Track Tunneler if you want. You can set up Nap Beast. You could even FTK. There's a ton of things you could do with this deck. So, as far as the deck breakdown here, it seems about only half of the builds actually end up being on the box/tunneler. Actually, the box being far more popular than the tunneler. Oh, I was going to say, why is Ancient Gear boxed at 55%, but the Bliss is only at 53%? I'm guessing the extra 2% are builds that are on Gear Gigant X, but not Ballista, in order to add the Ancient Gear box. The Infinite Track Tunneler, again, representing a much lower percent rate. This is ultimately kind of what I end up doing as well, as just cutting the Tunneler. Like, here's the thing, right? Drawing 2, in addition to your combo, is, of course, extremely strong. And, of course, not only drawing 2, but also... reloading your graveyard with the Infinite Track Tunneler effect to put back a bunch of Earth Machines reloading all these monsters from your graveyard back into your deck and extra deck. The problem with this is that you really only do the Tunneler line if the rest of your combo line, including the Ballista for the box for the Tunneler, all went through. And it's like, in my experience, I found that to be a little win more. Like, your combo is already going off at that point. You've already fully gone off. Are 2 extra draws really going to make that much of a difference? And sometimes they do. I'm not saying they never do by any means, but I think it's ultimately kind of rare that that's, like, super duper worth it, or, like, the difference between winning the game or not. As opposed to hand traps, which are very, very much, especially going second. That's the other thing, too. I was just, like, so sick of opening box and Tunneler, especially going second. And the same was true of Artifact Scythe. I was ultimately just not super eager to open that card in my hands anymore. So, yeah, I just ultimately dropped them for more hand traps. And, excuse me. I think by and large that is ultimately where the deck is going to end up being for a lot of ladder builds. But I want to emphasize that for a second. Hang on, let me just take a sip of water. And this is a video I'm actually planning on making at some point and publishing at some point this weekend is my current plan, to talk very, very much in detail about the difference between best of 1 ladder builds and best of 3 tournament builds. Super Heavy Samurai is kind of the epitome of this. Super Heavy Samurai plays a lot better, in my opinion, in a best of 1 than it does in a best of 3. Simply because the deck gets to play so many hand traps and you don't really play board breakers. And I think in best of 1 ranked ladder, that's the way to go. Hand traps are definitely better than board breakers in a best of 1, because board breakers are only good going second, except Droplet. I mean, there are a couple of exceptions that can be good going first as well, Droplet being the main one, but that aside, board breakers are only good going second, whereas hand traps have utility going first or second. And my whole thing is, like, why would you only play cards that are only good going second? Like, in a best of 1 where you could land heads, open your Dark Ruler no more, and be really, really sad that it's in your hand. Just kind of a no-brainer to me. But again, it's something that I also have a lot of experience playing both in the TCG, playing in tournaments, right, from my past, and also from my more recent past, playing a lot of best of 1 virtual card games like Hearthstone and Runeterra. So again, I'll cover all of the differences between that in an upcoming video, but I talked about it here mainly because we're not going to see quite as many Super Heavy Samurai lists in these tournament top cuts as you might expect, given how often you end up seeing this deck on ladder. But again, I think the reason is because this Super Heavy Samurai is a much better laddering deck than it is a tournament deck. So, speaking of tournaments, we're going to start with the DK to Meta Weekly number 94. This was on January 10th, so a little over a week ago at the time I'm recording this, and I think about 10 days ago at the time this comes out. But this was the first day that the new pack was legal, is when this tournament was held. And, again, less Super Heavy Samurai than you might expect. We do still have a couple, of course, but Monadium ended up taking even more spots, with Brandon Despia pretty shortly behind it. And it was, in fact, Monadium that ended up winning the whole tournament here. And, yeah, I mean, I think, again, for a best of 3, because the DK Meta Weekly is a 1-deck best of 3 with no side decking. So, yeah, we see the droplets here in the Monadium build, and that makes sense to me. 1, because Droplet is, as I just mentioned, the best board breaker, I think, for ranked ladder in general, because, you know, it's good going first or second. But here in a best of 3, making room for the board breakers makes a lot more sense. So, and if you're going to make room for a board breaker, Droplet is the most flexible one. So, yeah, makes a lot of sense to see that here. Of course, as I mentioned, they are on the Trisukta as well as the Ambraterra, so no surprise there. Again, only 2 extra deck monsters, but makes all the difference for Monadium. There's a huge boost in power for them. And look at that, we have Monadium taking the second place as well. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty standard on 1 Droplet, 1 Duster. Again, best of 3, so you can get away with that a lot more easily. Alright, we have Scarblack as one of our Super Heavy Samurai top finishers. I've played against Scarblack in the MCS before. Scarblack is a very, very good duelist. But yeah, it looks like a pretty standard Super Heavy Samurai list we got here. Branded in top 4 as well, a 60-card branded list. Another Super Heavy Samurai list. Oh, this one is on the Soul Claw. Interesting. I've seen some people on that one there. Dinos also end up making top cut with the Transcendrix. Very, very cool to see. Very cool. Always got to have that Panda Magician deck. It seems like there's always a Panda Magician deck there in the top cut of at least one of these tournaments here. This looks like a... I was going to say Monadium tier, but there's not really a whole lot of Monadium stuff going on. It's kind of just like Visas tier element. Kashtira, even though Fenrir is only at 1, still sneaking in with a top cut there. Dio Branded, a name we recognize a lot, teching the Rainbow 5 Magician, the 5 Rainbow Magician against exactly Super Heavy Samurai. Of course, this card is also like just decent as a floodgate overall, but let's be real. This card is here for exactly Super Heavy Samurai, which for a day 1 of the new PAX tournament, I don't think is a bad idea at all, given how many people were probably playing it at the time. A Gold Pride Punk getting the top cut as well. We love to see it. We love to see it. Kid Art, another name I see a lot on Monadium here with the Econs as well as Droplets. Moreski on a Warrior combo build. Warrior Link with Terratop at 3 for the Invoker. Makes sense. Pepe's, they're good. Hana Lab build here. We got another Monadium build here. No Droplets in this one. Sword Soul. Yeah, nice to see Sword Soul still sneaking in for a top cut finish there as well. Alright, Master Cup number 27. And again, this top 16 is only going to end up having 1 Super Heavy Samurai in it. Again, might be less than a lot of people think, but we are on a best of 3 format. So again, I do think that the deck performs better in best of 1 than best of 3. And speaking of decks that perform differently in best of 1 versus best of 3, we have the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare Lock is making an appearance in the top cut of, or the top placing deck rather, being Branded Despia here. And as I've discussed in the past, the Nightmare Luck is a lot better in best of 3 than it is in best of 1, because it just becomes easy. It's not necessarily that it becomes easier to get off, but you have more games to successfully Nightmare Lock, right? Nightmare Locking is something that if it gets disrupted can be very, very detrimental. In a best of 1, that's a huge risk to take. In a best of 3, you always have more games to play, so makes sense. Alright, Lab coming in second place here with the Ariane. Cool stuff, cool stuff. We got some Vanquish Soul action going on here. Some more Vanquish Soul list top cut finishing there. That wasn't a sentence, but okay. Mathmech here. Looks like they are on the microcoder package. Wow, no spirits or firewall. Interesting, but you don't really need either, I suppose. Another Vanquish Soul, a lot of VS in the top cuts here. Hey, here's that one Super Heavy Samurai in the top 8 here. Looks like this one is on Machina Metal Cruncher. It's a cool tech. Got Monadium here with the thrust for the Duster. Alright, top 8 decks for that tournament there. The, which one was this again? The Master Cup. We love to see the Master Cup here. 56 players. Factory Cup, Season 5, Number 2, had 45 players. Wow, only 4 people brought Super Heavy Samurai at all. A lot of Branded Despia. But it was Mathmech. Mathmech with the Firewall package and Singularity that ended up taking it. Again, this is another best of 3 tournament series. Or a tournament format, rather. And spoiler alert, I think in this one we don't see any Super Heavy Samurai top. Oh, no, it's no Branded that we see top, which is really interesting. Although, to be fair, this is like a branded variant. This is branded Monadium right here. Vanquish Soul. We got Trap Tricks getting in there. Got more Vanquish Soul. Got more Super Heavy Samurai, again with the Machina Metal Cruncher. What does this do anyway? If you control the face-up cards, normal summon start trading, but original type equals 1800, normal special. Reveal 3 Earth Machines from your deck, then your opponent randomly adds one of them to your hand. You shuffle the rest into your deck. That's cool. So you could potentially start with this as an almost kind of like Stratos, I guess. Huh, neat. You can't add the Wakaushi, but definitely still neat. Got Tri-Brigade Leerlisk. Again, one of these decks that people would just assume is, you know, dead. Has been dead for a while because nobody's on it, right? Wrong. We see Charmy here on it. I don't know if Charmy is the person who's been topping with it, but it's definitely not the first time in recent weeks we've seen Bird Up steal some steal some wins in a tournament. Also funny that Cobalt Sparrow finally back at 3. Yeah, we played 2 anyway. Makes sense. Hey, look, here's Dragon Link. Dragon Link, I'm going to say this. I highly suspect that Dragon Link might be in the same spot that Tier Limit was in after Merlin got banned. Now that Wyvern Burster's been banned, where a lot of people just kind of like assume the deck is dead and nobody's playing it. But no, I think Dragon Link is definitely still a thing. It's not as strong as it was before by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it would be very foolish to assume that Dragon Link is just no longer viable, period. A lot of people don't seem to understand that, like, it is possible that sometimes people just don't play a deck. Like, so many people have this idea of, like, oh, if a deck isn't being played by people, then it has to be bad, because if it was good, people would be playing it. That's not at all true. That is not even remotely true, by the way. People sleep on good decks all the time. We see it historically in formats like GOAT, in Edison, in Hat, where, you know, all of these old revised, or revisited, rather, formats end up having decks that were not explored at the time actually end up being some of the stronger decks in the meta. So it would be very foolish to assume the same thing is not happening at pretty much any given point in time in Master Duel. So yeah, it was even one of the comments that pointed out, like, what was it? Yeah, wow, 10 branded, none topped. Boo! Boo AR-15 plus Slay Goat. You are missing the point. The players don't suck. Also, if the players suck, why don't you enter this tournament and win it? I hate it when people say that. I hate it when people say that. It's not only untrue, but it's like, again, people being determined to miss the point. Also, another funny thing I glossed over that I want to point out in this comment section, that, like, so shows why you cannot just take tournament pie charts and just use that for your meta evaluation, is exactly what this person says here. This pie chart is what I think the meta will play out. Branded at the top, with many decks sharing tier 2-3 space almost equally, but none of the branded decks topped. What? Yeah, no. Again, there are a lot of players who have a competitive interest in the game that will use pie charts as substitutes for thinking critically and evaluating the meta. Don't do that. Don't be like this comment section. Do not only take pie charts and tournament results to be your only standing of what the meta looks like. And again, especially for ranked ladder, we'll talk about that more again in that upcoming video here. Third iCup number 2. This is the 5v5 team league. 20 teams, Max C banned, best of 1 with no side decking. So as a result, as we're gonna see here, we're going to be seeing a lot more Super Heavy Samurai lists in this particular tournament than we have in the others. And again, I think that's because it is a best of 1. Also with Maxi being banned and like no other changes to the format, yeah, Super Heavy Samurai becomes a lot better. Like a lot better. Like a lot better. I've always maintained that, like, while I do think Maxi being banned would generally be a good thing, you can't just ban Maxi and leave the rest of the ban list alone. You have to adjust the rest of the ban list. Like, there needs to be other adjustments that are made beyond just banning Maxi. That alone does not, like, fix Master Duel, which a lot of people pretends like it does, but it doesn't. But yeah, there's Super Heavy Samurai from Scar. Got Lab here. Yes, Adventure! Adventure! Let's fucking go! So good, so good. We got Tier Limit here as well. More Super Heavy Samurai. Alright, we have another lab list with 3. Rainbow 5 Magician, which again, makes sense in a format where you would expect a lot of Super Heavy Samurai. Which, yeah, and that was all just within the first place team. We saw, what, 3 different Super Heavy Samurai lists? And as we go to the second place team, we are, yet again, just seeing more and more Super Heavy Samurai. Oh, hey, this person's actually on the General Cole. Interesting. I've considered, like, actually playing one of these just to have, like, another pendulum scale that's not big banky, but that's interesting that somebody actually did it. More Lab, this time with the Power Sync Stone. Oh, this one didn't load all the way. Master Duel Meta likes to do that a lot. Oh, there it goes. Finally, our first branded list here. Lily Clo on Super Heavy Samurai, more Super Heavy Samurai. Yeah, I mean, again, in these first and second place teams here, We're already seeing more Super Heavy Samurai in this tournament than any of the other ones. And again, best of one, no side decking. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. All right, here we have the Cola Cup. This one had 6 rounds, best of 1 into best of 3, top 16. Although it had best of 1 Swiss, this tournament actually had no Super Heavy Samurai. None at all make the top cut finish, which is rather interesting. Sky Striker, of all decks, ended up taking first place here, which, wow. That's pretty cool. I just want to make sure there's, like, yeah, there's no, like, format restrictions or anything. So, the Super Heavy Samurai not showing up. Sky Striker ultimately taking the W here. Very, very cool. Again, Sky Striker. Sky Striker is a deck that a lot of people would just call bad right now. A lot of people would be like, oh, why would you play Sky Striker? That deck is bad. Because it's not one of the top 5, 6, 7, whatever decks. But here we have it. Winning a tournament. It's like, I've said it before. I'll keep saying it. That, yeah, you can't just look at the top 5 decks and be like, boom, that's the metagame. Not even close to how that works. Not even close. All right, Dinos. Yet again with more Transcendric stuff. Very cool. I think it's called Transcendosaurus in the TCG. But we got Branded Despia, not on the Gimmick Puppet because, again, best of 1 makes sense. Same with this Branded Despia list. No Gimmick Puppet because we are playing best of 1 Swiss. There we go. Those are the top 4 decks from that tournament. Got a couple more. There were 2 DK'd Meta Weeklies in the time since I did the last This Week in Master Duel. And I will say in this one we do see more Super Heavy Samurai end up taking the top cut here. But it was in fact branded on 3/5 Rainbow Magician yet again. Wow. Might actually be better branded tech than I thought. I mean, to be fair, again, this plays against more decks than just Super Heavy Samurai, but again, let's not kid ourselves. This is here for Super Heavy Samurai, so. Wow, first and second place branded, no Gimmick Puppets in them. That's interesting. Surprising, but yeah, it's cool, all the same. More Rainbow 5 Magicians here in this lab list. Alright, we got Monadium here for the last top 4 deck. Top 8 is going to feature our first Super Heavy Samurai list. Ah, this is the FTK. You can always tell it's the FTK variant with the Galaxy Queen's Light. Well, and of course the Dark Strike Fighter as well. That's probably the bigger giveaway, but yeah, the Galaxy Queen's Light. Definitely an indication. Here's another of our Super Heavy Samurai lists. Not an FTK this time. Whoops. Not an FTK this time, but we do have the Scythe Lock here. Got another branded list. Again, not on the... Wow, not on the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. Very, very surprising. Scar Black topping yet again. Super Heavy Samurai, this time using a small Rescue Ace package. The impulse to search out the Fire Attacker. Very, very cool. Ooh, Thunder Dragon! Thunder Dragon! Yet another deck that a lot of people would probably just say, it's bad. It's not. It's not bad. It's a fine deck. Stellar here on some more Monadium. Always nice to see adding Nister, getting into the top cut there. And Pearly, God, when was the last time we've seen Pearly? This deck, by the way, is like almost assuredly underrepresented in both tournaments and especially on ranked ladder. I get why people aren't playing this deck anymore with 1 Delicious Memory and 2 Pretty Memory, but Pearly, yeah, another deck a lot of people probably just say it's bad and not give a second thought. It's bad now that this is limited. It's bad now that this is 2. It's just bad. It's not bad. It's not bad, by the way. More Super Heavy Samurai here. We got Mikanko sticking into the top 16, as well as Exorcister and Dinomorphia. Hell yeah, good stuff. All right. And finally, we're going to look at Evil League Season 9, week number 3. Was single Elim, best of 3 with a side deck. And look at that, it was... Oh, wow, yeah, no, it is. I was going to say, I thought it was going to be Super Heavy Samurai. But then I saw the Pen Magicians, but it is. It's Super Heavy Samurai Pen Magician. That's neat. Always neat to see people innovating. Alright, we got Labyrinth. Relatively standard looking list there, from what I can tell. Oh, wow, look at this. We've got Tearlament with the Brilliant Fusion running the... Well, they're not on Garnet. They're on Sapphire, but Gem Knight Garnet is the namesake of that little phrase there, so... Pearly tier, that's cool. Yet, look at this, more innovation. We love to see it. Love to see it. Alright, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for this video, as we have taken a look at all these tournament topping lists. Again, might not have been as many Super Heavy Samurai lists overall as you're seeing, or expect to see rather, but I suspect, again, that is largely due to best of 3 being the most popular tournament format, and the deck tends to perform better in best of 1. Again, we'll talk about the difference between best of 1 and best of 3, ideally later this weekend at some point in a video, but for the time being, that's going to go ahead and do it. Let's now move to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page, where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs, as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.